Okay, so uh, we are working on the second block and creating the orthographic projection drawing for block number 2 here. So at this point, hopefully you've opened up a new drawing. You've saved it as block 2 orthographic hyphen your first and last name. At this point, you should be going through these steps by sequence where you come up here and you click on the settings, make sure that your units are at decimal units, 0.3 decimal place. And then, of course, you've developed at this point all of your different layers. Your object line layer is already there. Your center line layer that's going to be color red with using continuous line or center lines. Your construction line layer that's red using continuous lines. Your hidden line layer that's green using hidden lines. So at this point, that's the very first steps that you need to do when you're doing this. Don't forget that before you create these layers, you do need to go into your object properties and make sure that color is by layer, line type is by layer on all of these. Otherwise, it will default because your object properties override the layer properties. So on line type especially, if you leave that in here as continuous line, which is what the auto default is when you open up the program, if you leave that there, all of your lines that you draw, no matter which layer you're in, will be continuous line. So make sure you check by layer. That lets the program know that to draw the type of line that you've indicated when you're in your layers property manager. So we're going to come over here. We're going to start by going into our construction lines. Remember, we've talked about the 9 lines. We're going to go ahead and reset our 9 lines. And this is just a review here too. So my first line is going to be a horizontal line that's 20 inches. Now, the best way for me to draw horizontal and vertical lines is to use my ortho down here. So I'll click on ortho, go to the line type, so or the line tool. It's going to be at 0, 0. So I want that at my origin, and I hit enter. Now all I need to do is say, well, I want this to be 20 inches long, and hit the enter key, and it gives me a line. Now notice I'm still in the draw tool, and I'm kind of zoomed in a little too far here, so that's all right. So we'll right click, confirm to get out of that. So I just type in Z for zoom, hit enter, A for all, and hit enter, and that zooms me out so that I can see that line. Now I can use my tracking roller to kind of zoom out a little further and get that in there. All right, my next line is going to be the vertical line. So I'll right click, repeat last command, enter on the keyboard 0, 0, place enter. Now, nope, I'm still in the zoom command, so we'll just exit out of that. I'm not sure what happened there, but anytime you get into something like that, just hit the escape button twice to get out. Oh, I know what it was. You know why it happened? Because my last command was zoom. So when I right click, repeat last command, it took me back into the zoom command. So in that case, I do need to come over and grab the line tool again. So 0, 0, enter. And in this case now, we're going to be a vertical line at 90 degrees, and that's going to be 20 inches long as well. There we go. Still on the command. We'll confirm to get out of that. All right, now at this point, so we'll zoom out a little bit just to see what I've got so far. You should have that L. So I'm getting the goofiness going on here with my tracker again. So zoom, I'm going to do the extents this time. All right, so there we go. Now I've got that L shape for the bottom and left-hand corner of my 9 lines. So now if you recall, creating our 9 lines, we're going to use the offset tool, and we're setting these 9 lines based on the dimensions, the biggest dimensions on the part. In this case, our part measures 6 inches by 3 inches by 1.5. So my first width is going to be 6. So I'm going to move it over and hit 6 and enter. I have to allow space between those views. So I'm going to click on this line, and I'm going to move that over. The space I'm going to allow here is 1 inch. I hit enter. Now my depth, so is going to be boxed in over here, and my depth is 1.5 on that part. So there we go. So there's 5 out of my 9 lines. Now I'm going to offset this line for my height, and my height is 3 inches. So I have to keep the same spacing between views. So this is going to be 1 inch, enter. And then again, my depth will be 1.5 or 1.5 inches there for my depth. Okay, so I've got 8 of the 9 lines taken care of. Now I need to add that 9 line. So I'm going to come in here and remember the 9th line is coming right off of the corner of this front view. Now notice my object snaps are kind of coming through there. So when you're doing this, make sure you have the intersection object snap selected so that you can pick up on these lines. So right here, we'll go here. So I'll left click, and then I'm just going to move my cursor up and to the right. Oh, well, look what's happening. It's only letting me do vertical or horizontal lines. Why? Well, because we got that ortho on. So let's turn ortho off again. And this is just going to be a 5-inch line. Now notice I could come in here and I could pick up on these intersection object snaps. I don't want to do that on this one, and this is just kind of a check mechanism. So I'm going to enter 5 for my length. You want to manually key these in and tab over, and then I'm going to manually enter 45 degrees. And I'll tell you why. This is a check. There we go. So we've got that. We'll confirm it. You know, of course, that at 45 degrees, we're going to be bisecting these squares and they should line up. But sometimes if you get off on placing your 9 lines where where you haven't set the right dimension, then by doing this 9th line at 45 degrees, that'll give you a clue that something is wrong and you got to go back and check your placement of the 9 lines. All right, so I'm going to come in and we'll trim out the lines we don't need again. So I'm just kind of bringing my cursor over. I'm going to left click and hold and kind of just move right on down. So get those out of the way. So see, there we go. My whatever reason here in the mornings when I'm doing this, that zoom, when I use that roller track, it just doesn't want to work. So that's all right. We can always go back to the screen, and of course I'm still going to trim out. In this case, I'll just trim out this 1 line right here too. There we go. Escape twice to get out of the command. I'll do a zoom, and we'll do the extent here. So yeah, I'm getting a little delay here with the online. Either my internet connection is running slow, or there's a lot of people using it right now. So that's all right. Sometimes we just have to have patience. All right, so there's our 9 lines set up like we had before. Only there's a difference now in as far as our 9 lines, because in that front view, remember this is kind of like the L-shaped block where that this corner of that block is cut out. So we need to kind of place some construction lines there so we know where we should put those object lines in each view. So I'm going to go back to my offset. So I'm going to select this line, and we know that that is half of the height of the in the drawing. So since we're 3 inches on our height, so we're going to go half of 3 inches will be 1.5. So I'm going to place that. And then of course half of our width is going to be 3 inches. So I'll click on this vertical line here. We'll move that over. That should be at 3. So all right, so now I've got all my construction lines to draw what the object or the real line should look like. So let me go back here and make my object line view active so I can draw on it. And at this point, it's just a matter of going back and drawing these lines. So for each of the views. So I know now that I've got all these points, I really know where my lines kind of fall in. And again, notice how that almost picked up on the midpoint of that construction line. So you got to watch your object snaps here and make sure that you are snapping to the right spot. So this is where this one comes in. Going to come right over here. See how that picks up on the midpoint there? So make sure that you are going to the correct spot and don't let it snap on a different point. And if you're worried about that, just go back and shut off that particular object snap that it keeps coming up on. So, all right, so I've finished the front view. I'll right click confirm. I can come over then and we'll do the side view. So I'll right click repeat last command. So, and in this case, we'll pick up here and we know that that comes on. This is going to mainly look like this rectangle. Okay. All right, there we go. Let me right click confirm to exit out, and then I will right click repeat the last command because I need the object line right here as well. Remember, if we're looking at that, how our orientation as far as moving that block around. So recall now that this object line that you're seeing here is really the point and this corner of the block that you're seeing, although in the front view it just looks like that corner point. All right, now my top view. So we'll repeat the last command here again. So on down here. Yeah, my internet interface is definitely kind of running a little slow this morning, so there's a little delay between it. There we go. We'll confirm that. And again, I've got a line now because I see this construction line. So that construction line tells me that there's something going on there. So, and again, that should also be a solid object line. So we'll just put that in, and that's the last part that we need to complete this drawing. So I'll go ahead and confirm that out. All right, now to actually see what the block should look like, I just go back to my layers. Let's go ahead and hit the light bulb button to turn the construction line layers off. There's what the drawing looks like. And at this point, all you have to do is click save and you're done.